First off, we are here with Rod Keeling, president of the Arizona Wine Growers Association. Rod, can you tell us a little bit about what your job entails?
Well, I'm a volunteer president. It's my third term, which was separated by quite a few years. I was president also back in '04 through '08, and it's a volunteer organization. We have about 40 winery members, and throughout the state, out of the 60 or so bonded wineries in Arizona right now. And we're mostly concerned with the promotion of Arizona wine as an industry, and the education of our members about viticulture and enology, the making of wine and the growing of fruit, and also we have an advocacy program by which we have a legal counsel in Phoenix that's also our lobbyist, and we've worked with been pretty active in the legislature on wine law, not so much on the agricultural side. We're partners with the University of Arizona's College of Agricultural and Life Science, and they have a couple of extension agents, one in Cochise County or southeastern Arizona, and the other one is coming on board here soon. It's going to be up in the northern part of the state that we work with. But essentially, our primary objective is to grow the industry, introduce the public in Arizona to Arizona wine. I mean, there's about 7 million people in Arizona now, and it's one of the top per capita wine consuming states in the country, and one of the best markets for wine. And right now, Arizona wine really only constitutes about 1% of the sales of wine in Arizona.
Oh, interesting. So, since your business is inextricably linked to water resources, can you tell us a little bit about your background with water and natural resource management?
Well, I'm a vineyard farmer, and have been since 2003. My family has farmed in Arizona since the 1920s, and my brother still farms my grandfather's farm in Casa Grande. He's a large-scale farmer for cotton and alfalfa and grains, and he has farmed in the AMA since it was created in Pinal, in the Pinal AMA, and so I've been involved in that farm at off and on over the years, more involved than now, but he's been very helpful to me to get started in farming after my professional career in Phoenix was over a few years ago.
Great, excellent. So after your 3 terms, or as leader or president of the Wine Growers Association, what are you finding that you like most about working within this association, since you've had so much time to be a leader and have experience with the association?
Well, the things that are the most satisfying is some of the legislative accomplishments we've had that allowed us to attract investment and grow the industry. In 2005, when Keeling Schaefer Vineyards, is my vineyard, my wife and I, Jan Schaefer and I own. We were the 9th winery in Arizona, bonded by the federal government. Now there's 67, and so there's been a pretty much 1,000% growth in the last 10 years of the production of fruit and wine, and the growth in the number of wineries and the market that we share, the market share that we've been able to achieve.
Great. And just transitioning over to the Arizona Water Initiative topic, what would you say that your role is within the Governor's Water Initiative, coming from your background?
Well, I've got kind of I'm one of the farmer members, I would say, on the council. I have a somewhat different view of agriculture in Arizona. I look at my brother's situation. He farms about 4,000 acres in Pinal County, and they farm the same crops that my grandfather farmed back in the 40s. and 50s, and pretty much the same techniques. And I mean, there's been a lot of improvement, obviously, but there's still a lot of water used to grow conventional crops in Arizona compared to wine grapes, which use about a fifth of the water, maybe to a seventh of the water that a traditional crop uses, and of course the value of the wine grapes is somewhere between 10 and 25 times as much as a commodity crop. So I think it's a great opportunity to look at things in agriculture, and even though it may not be a huge change, even working at the margins in that, we can start to reduce be more efficient with water in Arizona in agriculture, and that's my job, is to try to make that case at the council to the other grower members, the other farmers, and also to the non-farmer water users that represent their industries.
Great, excellent. Thank you. I was wondering if, as a council member who lives and works in rural Arizona, what is your experience with implementing viticulture in a rural part of the state? Well, I think one of the reasons that 75% of all the wine and fruit grown in Arizona is grown in Cochise County and Southern Graham County around the Wilcox area is because there is some existing agricultural infrastructure here. A lot of the other places where we've tried to grow fruit has not been as successful because there's just never been anything grown there, like in Sonoyta or in the Verde Valley. There's not a large farming history there, and there's at least not on a large scale. And there's it's great to be able to have fundamentally to have all the people that can drill you a well, manage your well for you, maintain it, to be able to buy a tractor in the town that you're nearby, to be able to buy all your fertilizer, have a crop advisor that's educated in viticulture, to have the extension agent from the university here. When I talk about agricultural infrastructure, that's what I'm talking about, and I think it's been really beneficial here in Wilcox, and I think that's what I kind of, that's my experience. I lived in the Phoenix, actually in Tempe for nearly 40 years, and I can tell you that the biggest problem in rural Arizona is just the capacity of the infrastructure, the government, the government entities, the assistance that most businesses take for granted in the metropolitan areas. Interesting to think about. Just going back for a minute to the topic of the Governor's Water Augmentation Council, and as we mentioned earlier, you are a member on the council. So augmenting the state's water supply is a big part of the Governor's Water Initiative. Do you have any thoughts on what it will take to get that job done meaningfully? Well, I think there needs to be some, a few years ago when we talked about, changing attitudes about, my prior life was in downtown redevelopment and revitalization. I worked in downtown Tempe for 13 years as the president CEO of the downtown association there, and part of the reason downtown Tempe has experienced huge growth is because a lot of people had an open mind going in on what it was going to be, what the vision was going to be, and I think we need to talk. I think we need to think that way in the Water Augmentation Council, and I think that's what's going to give us the opportunity to make some impact and gain some traction in the effort that we've been charged with by the governor. I think that there's been some great things in water management done in Arizona over the last 40 years, 50 years, even further back. I remember, when I was a little boy in the 50s, my grandfather talked about bringing Colorado River water to Pinal County, and of course that's a reality now, and has been for a long time. But if you look at the historic aspect, yes, we've done a tremendous job of water management in Arizona, but I think now is a
critical time to start thinking about, since we've grown from, in the 50s, there might have been 1 million people in Arizona, now there's 7. So we have to start thinking about how the future is going to be addressed. And I think that's probably the most important thing that the council can take on right now, is to try to get out of the box and start thinking about ways to both reduce water use and to improve the resource itself.
Great. Great, well said. And that kind of transitions into our last question for you, which is, in your view, what is the most important water issue that you currently see facing the state of Arizona?
Well, right now we have some basins, particularly here in Wilcox. I worked on the Wilcox Basin Water Committee, working committee with the department for parts of 14 and 15, most of 15, so it was about a 16-month process, and we really tried to come up with some alternative management for a glaring problem, and the problem with the Wilcox Basin, as it is in many of these basins that don't have surface water, is that the only source is groundwater, and we're in overdraft, and we have been for quite some time. And if you look at historically, the overdraft, there's so much water that's going to get recharged into the Wilcox Basin, and there's so much being taken out, and it's about 5 to 1 right now as an overdraft. And there's about 60,000 acres of irrigated farmland in the Wilcox Basin. I'm just using this as an example because there's other basins in the state that have the same issue. But there's about 60,000 acres of irrigated agriculture in the basin. And the interesting thing is that, almost all that land could be in viticulture, and then there would not be an overdraft. In other words, we would go from a 5 to 1 overdraft to pretty much a balance of the basin's aquifer. And I'm not saying that everything's going to go to viticulture. I'm just saying this is that outside the box thinking that needs to be taken on statewide to think about. If agriculture uses 72% of all the water used in Arizona, then we really need to take a look at what we're doing as it relates to ag, and how we can start to move in a direction that we can get to better, a higher efficiency water use crops that have higher value, and I think that's at least something that we ought to be talking about.
Great, Rod. Thanks for your time. Thanks for answering our questions, and it's always educational and a great time talking with you. Thank you so much.